Yes, friends, welcome back. Few more topics on the definition part. We will complete it. The next topic which we'll be discussing is mercantile agent. Who is an agent and what does he do? Basically, his business is to transact as an agent. What are the features of it? What are the provisions involved in it? Let's see. Agent means an agent who has, that is, mercantile agent means an agent who has, by customary course of business, as such agent, an authority to. That means during the course of business as an agent, that person called agent, he has an authority to either sell goods or consign goods for the purpose of sale. What do you mean by consignment? We already have covered that in accountancy topic, but still, as a matter of fact, consignment refers to such a case where consigner, that is a provider of the goods, sends goods to receiver of the goods called consignee. The receiver of the goods sells the goods in his area, locality, place, jurisdiction, and out of the proceeds he gets commission, and after deducting commission he sends back the money to the consigner. Basically, to expand the products market, the consignment transactions can happen. So as an agent, that is as a mercantile agent, he has maybe having, or he may have an authority of consigning the goods for the purpose of sale, or he can buy goods on behalf of the principal, or he can raise the money on security of those goods. So what and all a mercantile agent can do is what has been explained under section 2 bracket 9 of the Sale of Goods Act. The classic example of mercantile agents would be one, auctioneers. We have seen auctioning happening, IPL auction, the person who taps 1, 2, 3 gone, that person is called an auctioneer. He is also called a mercantile agent as far as Sale of Goods Act is concerned. Second is brokers. It could be share broker, it could be a real estate broker. Third one is factors. Factors have a special understanding and special meaning in finance world. What are these factors? Let's say, for example, many of you all have your prepaid mobiles and postpaid mobiles. I am taking an example of postpaid mobiles. Suppose a company called Airtel has 1 lakh connections given to the public on a postpaid basis, and monthly rental is let's say $9.99 per month, inclusive of GST. Airtel can do a particular plan wherein they can bring in a person called factor, tell the person, this factor basically could be a banker, tell the banker or the factor stating that he has so and so connections, 1 lakh connections, multiplied by 999 rupees minimum billing, that is monthly charges that you are going to, the customer is going to pay to Airtel. That month, that total amount is going to come by the end of 1 month from now. So Airtel does a deal with the banker telling that you can go all out and take the collections money from the customers, but pay me right now, let's say 90% of the money. That is, let's say if 1 lakh into 1000 connections is X amount multiplied by 90% of that amount will be given by the factor to Airtel. But what happens, what is the business model of the factor? Factor waits for the collections for 1 month, and if and when the whole 100% collection happens, the profit percentage of the factor is basically 10%. In other words, they trade with money. The factors are nothing but they trade with money, they trade with receivables. So that was all about mercantile agent for you. Moving on to the next case called property. My dear friends, please appreciate it was taking quite a lot of time for me to explain and write. So basically I made the entire topic in bullet points and I'm explaining it here point by point. I hope things are okay with this method. Going forward, property. Generally, property means land, building, apartment, and so on and so forth. Well, in Sale of Goods Act, property does not mean all those things. Property has a special status, special meaning to it. Property means ownership. That means I own this goods. Recall the definition of goods. It is always a movable property. Property means ownership, that is the goods which is movable where I am the owner of it. Ownership should be transferred from one person to another person, that is from the buyer to the seller. Property means ownership, that ownership should be transferred from whom? From the buyer to the seller, or there should be an agreement to sell. When I say transferred, all the risks and rewards relating to the goods should be transferred from the buyer to the seller. Alternatively, there could be another case wherein there should be an agreement to sell between the buyer and the seller. Only if there is an agreement to sell, or should I say, if there is only an agreement to sell, then the risks and rewards is not completely transferred from the seller to the buyer. There is the ownership still continues to be with the seller, and the buyer is liable to pay the money to the seller only after the transfer of ownership. Only then the risks and rewards can be transferred. Later on in the next session, you will be seeing what is the difference between sale and agreement to sell. Moving forward, property means ownership. Ownership should be transferred, that is seller should transfer the ownership to the buyer, or there should be an agreement to sell between seller and the buyer. Well, in this, the unique feature is something called as general property versus special property. When you own a particular goods, that means you are having a general property of that goods, that is nothing but general ownership of the goods. What is special property then? I have given an example. Let's say Mr. X, who owns a particular goods, let's say car, he pledges with or hypothecates. There is a lot of difference between pledging, hypothecation and mortgaging. I will come to that. Mr. X owns a certain goods, pledges it with with Mr. Y for certain amount. We have done this, for example, at difficult times, we have gone and pledged gold. We don't say hypothecated gold, we don't say mortgaged gold. We say we pledged gold. Let's say Mr. X is having about 100 grams of gold. He pledges that with Mr. Y for an amount. He was in need for certain business or personal reasons. He has taken that amount. Now, who is the owner of that 100 grams? Mr. X is the owner of that 100 grams. No doubt about it. Which means 100 grams gold, X becomes the owner. X continues to be the owner, which means the general property of that 100 grams gold continues to be with Mr. X. However, the special property which is with Mr. Y is nothing but the right of pledge. That is, he can retain that particular good, 100 grams of gold, up to the amount lent. Till the money is not recovered back, he can retain that 100 grams of gold. Once that amount is returned back, his interest is no more in that gold. Therefore, he returns back that gold, in which case, in simple words, I have to tell here in this example, 100 grams of gold, the general property, nothing but general ownership. In simple words, the ownership continues to be with Mr. X. However, the special property, that is the special ownership, is limited to the extent of the money lent by Mr. Y to Mr. X. That is with Mr. Y. So that was about property. All these definitions will definitely help you once we go ahead with the second unit of Sale of Goods Act 1930. Last but not the least, we have one more small definition which is talking about insolvent. What is meant by insolvent? Insolvent refers to a person who ceases. Ceases means is no more going to, it's no more possible for him to do it. When a person ceases to pay his debts in the ordinary course of business, his debts, I hope you know, is the repayment things, repayment of a loan, a creditor payment, etc. When a person ceases to pay his debt, when a person who cannot pay his debts in the ordinary course of business, normal course of business, if he is unable to pay his debts, if I say suddenly tsunami has happened, suddenly a massive earthquake has happened, or for that matter corona has happened, in such cases we cannot say it is ordinary course of business. That's an extraordinary case. So when a person ceases, can't or stops his inability to pay his debts in the ordinary course of business, he is called an insolvent, or he cannot pay his debts as the debts becomes due. What do you mean by this? An insolvent is also called as an insolvent when he cannot pay his debts as they become due. For example, if he has 3-4 monthly EMIs, equated monthly installments, if he is not able to pay as and when it becomes due, then he can be termed as an insolvent. Well, I would like to add a little bit of knowledge into it. Insolvency, bankruptcy, liquidation are of similar terminologies, but we have to use it very carefully. Basically, all these means where his assets far exceeds his liabilities. Should I say the reverse? His liabilities far exceeds his assets, then we call it as insolvent. If its assets far exceeds his liabilities, then we call them as solvent. So, when the liabilities are more than the assets, that means even if I sell all the assets and want to repay my liabilities, if I am unable to pay that, then generally I am called insolvent. Specifically, if I have to term for companies, I call it as liquidation. Then for individuals, then we call it as, such scenarios are called as bankruptcy. I hope you understood the difference between what is meant by insolvent, what is meant by bankruptcy, and what is meant by liquidation. In the next session, we will be seeing the differences between sale and agreement to sell, sale versus different forms of transactions. Kindly watch the video, and if you have any doubts, please mail me to lloydsacademy@gmail.com. I shall revert back. Thank you.